Hello and welcome to Spardha Lines, your one-stop destination for the civil services preparation, UPSC, KPSC and other relevant examinations. Today we have something exciting for you. Apart from the Hindu analysis that we take up regularly, what we will also introduce is the concept that is important from your KPSC examination point of view, and we have picked up specific articles directly from the Deccan Herald newspaper. These articles are in focus with your examination for the state level examinations and are very important from the current affairs aspect of KPSC. So be excited, and we will have more information that will come your way, which is very important from your KPSC examination point of view. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says Defusing the ticking time bomb called diabetes. What is this article speaking about? The article here is speaking about the processed food and how when people consume more processed food, this could ultimately lead to more diabetes in the picture, and this could also create more health related problems. So the article here is speaking about how there are increasing cases of type 2 diabetes that is stepping into the picture, into the life of the people, and all because of the ultra processed food. So the article says that we are consuming a lot of ultra processed food, that is because of our typical lifestyle, and this is increasing the lifestyle diseases of late. So what we have to do is come up with new advanced nuanced laws in picture so that we can ultimately keep a check on the type 2 diabetes. Let us try and understand what is the author trying to explain. The author in this particular case first says that there is increasing use of the unhealthy ultra processed food and the beverages. What are these ultra foods and the beverages? When we speak about ultra processed food and the beverages, most of us are working. We might not be having time to eat proper food. Why? Because we cannot invest time on cooking proper food which are healthy in nature. So what do? We go to the McDonald's. I don't want any defamation cases here. I'm just giving you an example. So you eat the buns, or you take a Pepsi or Coca-Cola, or you start drinking beverages as well. And there are a couple of energy drinks as well. So what we start doing is we start consuming the food, we start consuming the cheap items, we start consuming the breads as well. We assume that brown breads are healthy, so on and so forth, but that also has a lot of maida in it. At the same time, we start eating a lot of biscuits. I'm not against eating biscuits, or I'm not against McDonald's. I'm just giving you an example saying that when you consume these unprocessed ultra processed foods, what would happen? Your body will start getting used to it. You would want to eat more and more of that. That is because of certain chemicals and colors that are added to it. So what are the examples of the ultra processed food? This will basically include carbonated drinks like the Pepsi, the Coca-Cola, Thumbs Up, the Mountain Dews, aaj kuch tufani kar lenge, so on and so forth. And then you have the instant cereals, chips, fruit flavored drinks, instant noodles, then you have cookies, ice cream, bakery products, energy bars, sweetened yogurts, pizzas, processed meat products, and powdered infant formulas. These all fall under what is called as the ultra processed food. This is where the author goes on to say, with the increasing consumption of the ultra processed food, what we have is increasing lifestyle diseases, and this ultimately could create what is called as health related problems. So the author goes on to say, scientific evidence shows that diets heavy with ultra processed food and beverages are high in sugar, fat and salt, and are risky and can lead to type 2 diabetes. A 10% increase in the consumption of ultra processed food a day is associated with 15% high risk of type 2 diabetes among adults. When food is ultra processed, its structure is changed, cosmetic additives are added, colors are added, and ultimately what it could lead to is health related problems. With type 2 diabetes increasing, people do not have time to perform their daily exercises. This can also create heart disease, cardiovascular disease, and mortality will increase over a period of time. So the author says that this is primarily employed by the marketing companies, by the food processing companies. Who are their target audience? The target audience happen to be the children. So what do? They say that this happens to be a nutritious food. They market it in such a way that they assume and they convince the people that this is their best product that can be given to the people. What do? They engage in very good advertising marketing, and they also collaborate with ambassadors and celebrities as well. So they bring in cricketers, they bring in Bollywood, Hollywood, as well as other actors as well. In fact, of late, the pan masala ad also has some of the prominent leaders and the celebrities as well, and these celebrities are also endorsing such products. Such has become the abysmal state of what is called as the advertising. So even the harmful products are being taken up by these celebrities. So what is that they are doing? The younger generation are getting influenced by these advertisements, who assume that these are healthy because the advertising companies target such people. So what do? They basically come up with these target audience and ultimately start bombarding them with constant messages that is to do with these ultra processed food. And when you consume such ultra processed food, it will lead to the changes in your body structure, it changes in your body immune system, as well as creates more kinds of what is called as the lifestyle diseases. So the author in this particular case goes on to say, what we have to create is more structure in the near future, change laws, bylaws, rules and regulations, and we have to ensure that all this is taken into the picture by the government mechanism. So the Food and the Safety Standards Authority of India has currently shown a lackluster response to crisis and has allowed a dominating role to the food industry while suggesting the front of the package labeling. What is the front of the package labeling? Let's say for example you buy a biscuit packet, or let's say for example you buy something like a instant noodles. So on the instant noodles or on the biscuit packet, the minute you see the packet, you will have a label which will say that these are the ingredients. Currently what is the issue? They basically make use of a trick that the ingredients will be very small and it will be very tiny, that you would not be able to see it with your naked eyes. I mean, you would be able to see it, but then you would not be able to see it properly. But then what the government is suggesting and the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India is suggesting is for coming up with the front of the package labeling. So the minute you have that particular brand, it has to show what are the ingredients that are present, what are the harmful ingredients that are present, and there are also ratings that are given in couple of products as well. Let's say for example 1 grading, 2 grading, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. If the grading is comparatively low, how exactly will this transform to the human body? So that grading will give a clear-cut picture, is it good or bad for the body. Such, if it is given, people would also be able to see it and they will also be able to select a particular product or not. So what the government of India has to introduce is more such policies like front of the package labeling, so on and so forth. Added to it, the author also goes on to say that the government has to bring new changes, it has to introduce laws, it has to introduce rules and regulations so that this harm that is being caused by these ultra processed food and beverages is kept under check. It also So the author goes on to say that it could also include define what is healthy food, a warning label of unhealthy food, and restrictions on the promotion and marketing tactics of the unhealthy food and beverages. The people must be informed of the risk of consuming such food. In this process, there is no reason to partner with the food industry that is responsible for the ill health. So how exactly are we going to change it? Promote, market, and also come up with more ads that if you consume so and so food, this could be the likely repercussions, and such likely repercussions could ultimately harm the body. So come up with such advertisements, says the author. In fact, couple of countries like the South Africa, Norway and Mexico have recently taken similar actions. So it is right time for the government of India to take up such marketing issues and regulate the food labeling and marketing, says the author. So hitting the marketing sector where it is causing a lot of negative consequences is the need of the hour, says the author. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, Police to go high-tech to tackle traffic congestion in city. So this article here is in specific reference to the National Capital Region, which happens to be Delhi. We know for the fact that Delhi happens to be called as the gas chamber. Why? That is because of the increasing case of pollution. So because there is excessive pollution in the National Capital Region Delhi, now we have some of the measures that have been taken. So what are the measures that have been taken? One, what they will start using is called as the variable message signboards. So the first important measure taken by the administration in Delhi happens to be the variable message signboards. What are these variable message signboards? As you can see from the image, this is an example of the variable message signboards. So basically you will have the bridges, and across the roads you will have the administration install these boards, which will give an image, or this will give an image, or it will give a text, or it will give an information about what is happening in that particular region and the locality. So it will display messages to the drivers, it can display the text, it can display the symbols, images, and making it an effective way to communicate to the user as well as to the driver about what measures can be taken by the driver. In case there is a particular lane where there is a lot of congestion in this road, he can choose an alternative road, he can choose a by lane as well. So this will ultimately help the drivers to prevent the congestion in that part of the area. So these are called as the variable message signboards and are commonly used on the highways, toll roads, bridges, tunnels, so on and so forth. And now it is being installed in the National Capital Region primarily to reduce congestion in that part of the region. Added to it, this will help in improvising safety. That happens to be an advantage. Added to it, it will also reduce the traffic congestion. There will be better traffic flow as well. Congestion will reduce, and by providing real-time information to the drivers in that locality, this will help in reducing accidents and also caused by poor visibility. When you look at the winter, especially in the winter season, there is a lot of fog. In fact, smog in certain pockets of Delhi, you would not be able to see properly. So if we are installing these variable message signboards, they can also say that there will be stalled vehicles, use an alternative way. So this will create an awareness to the minds of the people as well. Added to it, they can also reduce traffic congestion and give more information about alternative roads as well as road closures as well. This is one such measure. The second measure that they have also taken is what is called as the red light violation detection cameras. What are these red light violation detection cameras? This is very important. Why? Because this is not only in Delhi, it happens in major pockets of major cities. This has been employed in Mumbai, it has been employed in Hyderabad, it has also been employed in Bengaluru, which happens to have a lot of traffic in itself. So how does it work? What we will have is an overview camera that continuously monitors the red light after the signal has turned on. So what do we have? We have three signals. One is what is called as the red signal, so you have to stop there, and then what you have is the orange, which is to be ready, and then what you have is the green signal, which means that you can actually go about in this particular signal, so you are free to move. So what we will have is a camera. This camera, so the minute there is the red signal, that is you have to stop, it immediately gets activated. So imagine you are in red signal, you are not supposed to move, but then you go about moving, so that particular camera will immediately capture the number plate. Any vehicle that violates the red light rule, the entire violation scenario is captured by the overview camera. So the ANPR camera captures the image of the license plate of the violating vehicle, and this optical character recognition is performed to read the license plate and identify the violator, and ultimately, since you are the one who have violated it, immediately challan would send to you, SMS would be sent to you for that mobile register number whosoever that vehicle is placed on. So this system is integrated with the Vahan database for automatic generation of the e-challan. Alerts are sent by the mail or the SMS to the owners of the violating vehicles based on the review of photographic video evidence of the command center. So what are the key features? There will be violation conditions. Red light is the first condition, second is the stop line, and there will be data log, that is vehicle image, license plate image, overview video, OCR, color of the plate, start timestamp of the red light, timestamp of violation, location, arm ID, lane ID, direction of the vehicle. In fact, in Bengaluru, red light violation detection cameras with artificial intelligence capabilities will be installed in as many as 50 traffic intersections. These cameras will be able to identify vehicle with outstanding lines as well as detect 8 violations, which include seat belt in case people are not wearing the seat belt, overspeeding, triple riding, one-way riding, using a cell phone, stopping or crossing stop lines, and not wearing a helmet. All these will be detected, and ultimately people would be issued challenge and they may have to pay fines as well. Another major update in the Bengaluru, what we actually see is one of the new technologies that is being integrated for the traffic management. This is what is called as Moderato. What is Moderato? It stands for Management of Origin Destination Related Adaptation for Traffic Optimization. So we know for the fact that Bangalore is known for a lot of traffic and congestion. In order to reduce the traffic and congestion, they have come up with this technology called as Moderato, which has been imported from the Japanese company as well as Japanese technology. What would happen? Instead of the manually controlled traffic lane where you would have a traffic police who would manually control it, and you will also have a prescribed digital one where this particular signal would be for about 60 seconds or it will be for about 120 seconds irrespective of the density. Let's say for example there are about 4 lanes. So you have about 4 lanes in picture. So what would happen? You would have 60 seconds for each of the lane. So there is no density of the vehicles that is checked, whether there is that particular lane which has large number of vehicles or not. This is not currently being checked in all these signals. But what would happen with Moderato? Moderato will basically ensure that the density of the vehicles is taken into picture. Imagine the density of the vehicle is more in this particular lane. Let's say there are about 120 vehicles in this lane. There are only about 5 vehicles in this lane. There are about 50 vehicles in this lane, and there are about 80 vehicles in this lane. So priority would be given to this lane. So wherever the density is more, it will allow vehicles to pass through this particular lane and eventually manage this whole entire signal process. So then 80 vehicles would be prioritized, then 50 vehicles would be prioritized, then last lane you will have is 5 vehicles. So this basis of determination of the traffic on the basis of density is what is called as Moderato, and this will be incorporated in number of signals in Bengaluru. Added to it, do note that when it comes to Moderato, it has one issue, that is, let's say there is an ambulance or there is an emergency vehicle that comes in. Will Moderato be able to detect that there is an ambulance coming in? No. That is where there can be a manual intervention. In case Moderato is employed, there is an emergency, there is a fire engine that is coming up, or there is another emergency, or there are a group of people who are going in that particular area for emergency, or there is an ambulance, manual powers would still be given to the police officers where they will be able to regulate Moderato. So while the signals will work in automated mode, provisions have been made for them to be operated manually for the purpose of facilitating emergency vehicles. The project costing 70 crore is being funded by Japanese International Cooperation Agency, while the Japanese firm Nagoya Electric Works Co. Limited is involved in its implementation. These are some of the important principles for governance where you have measures taken by the administration to reduce congestion in Delhi as well as in Bengaluru. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Karnataka government to pay up 7.5 lakh ex gratia in cases of unnatural death inside the jails. We did discuss recently in our analysis that there are 2 types of death that can take place in the jail. One is what is called as natural death. The other is what is called as unnatural death. What is this natural death that occurs in the jail? Let's say for example, a person is convicted and he is behind bars, he is in the prison. What if he is suffering from age related ailments? What if a person has a cardiovascular issue or he has he passes away because of heart attack, so on and so forth. In all these cases where the death occurs naturally, a person and his immediate kin will not be paid whatsoever money, that is by the government. But in this case where there is unnatural death, what is this unnatural death? Let's say for example, ideally these people are behind the prison, they should be taken care by the state authorities, which have to be police officers. What if there is fight between two jail inmates, or this person has passed away because of the ignorance of the authorities, or a person has committed a suicide? In all those cases where the state is not able to keep a check on infighting between the jailmates, or a person has committed suicide, it has led to the death of the person within the premises of a state, and as a result what the state will now have to do is compensate to the immediate kin of that person. So a policy has been framed for paying a compensation of 7.5 lakh to the next kin of the prisoners in case of unnatural death. So what is this unnatural death? It can be because of suicide, or it can be because of people fighting against each other. This has led to the death of another individual. In all these cases, in case a person passes away because of unnatural death, 7.5 lakh will have to be given. However, as per the policy, no compensation would be paid in case of natural death, including death due to illness of the prisoners. Also, no compensation would be paid if the death occurs while escaping from prison. So you wanted to escape from the prison, this is against the laws of the country, it is against the laws of the state, so this person is violating the law. If a person then moves away from the jail trying to escape from the jail, so no person would be given any compensation, and at the same time while the person is on parole or lawful custody outside the prison, and if the death covers due to natural disaster or calamity, then there will be no amount that will be paid as well. So this is taken into consideration by the High Court, and it has directed the state, the government, to perform these actions immediately as soon as possible. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about Kathak. The Kathak happens to be one of the important concepts from your GS paper 1 perspective, which is to do with your culture. So the word Kathak has been derived from the word Katha, which means a story. What is Katha? Katha basically means story. So there were people who were able to tell stories to the people in our country, especially in the northern part of India. They used to go about telling stories about mythology, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, so on and so forth. So those people who were telling these stories to the section of the people were called as Kathakars or storytellers, are people who narrate stories largely based on episodes from the epics, myths as well as legends. It probably started as an oral tradition, and today we have meme gestures were perhaps added as a later part, and what we have is Katha, which is a dance drama format that is practiced in the northern part of India, and main theme happens to be the Bhakti movement themes, the Vaishnavite cult as well as Radha Krishna based themes, which also became popular because of Mirabai, Surdas, Nandadas as well as Krishnadas. The emergence of Ras Leela, mainly in the Braj region, Mathura in western UP, was an important development. It combined music, dance and narrative with the upcoming of the Mughals. This dance received a new impetus. A transition from the temple courtyard to the palace darbar took place during the necessity changes in both Hindu and Muslim courts. Kathak became highly stylized and came to be regarded as a sophisticated form of environment. Under the Muslims, there was a greater stress on Nritya and Bhava, giving the dance graceful, expressive as well as sensual dimensions. And do note, it is the only classical dance of India having links to the Muslim culture. It represents a unique synthesis of Hindu and Muslim genius in the art. Further, Kathak is the only form of classical dance wedded to the Hindustani or the North Indian music. These are very important pointers which can probably ask in your preliminary examination. Then we have 19th century golden age for the Kathak. Under the patronage of Wajid Ali Shah, the last Nawab of Oudh, He established the Lucknow Gharana with its strongest accent on Baba, the expression of moods and emotions, the Jaipur Gharana, known for its layakari or rhythmic virtuosity, and the Banaras Gharana are other prominent schools of Kathak dance. So what are these Gharanas? Gharanas are individual types which have a representative capacity because a person started practicing it. So there is a specific person, this person starts teaching a specific kind of dance to the other section of the society. So this creates a compartment within the same group. So Kathak happens to be a main classical dance. So one person has unique ways of representing Kathak. So the followers of this representation is what is called as the Gharana. So Gharana is nothing but a subtype within the main dance format. So the main dance format happens to be Katha, and within this there is a subgroup called as Gharanas. So you have Lucknow Gharana, then you also have Jaipur Gharana, then you also have Benares Gharana. So these are subtypes or individual types where number of people have similar such practices. These are some important pointers with respect to Kathak. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Norway's John Fosse wins Nobel for literature. Norway's John Fosse 64, whose plays are among the widely engaged stage of contemporary playwright in the world, won the Nobel Prize in literature. So the Swedish Academy said that the writer was honored for his innovative plays and prose which gave voice to the unsayable. This can be once again important from the preliminary examination. Who won the Nobel for literature in 2022? The answer to this would be Norway's Jan Fosse. So he started writing in his mother tongue language, and that happens to be written in Norwegian Norsk language. These are some of the important pointers. Now let's look into the next article, and this is where we bring to you the Deccan Herald edition. So this article says government's tax on the online gaming. What are online gaming? Let's say for example you have Dream 11. This happens to be one of the companies. So what they run is online programs or these online gaming channels, and currently they were imposed with 18% taxes. In the new change that the government of India has introduced, they will be imposed with 28% taxes. So from the 18% tax bracket, GST would be now be imposed on 28% on all these online gaming platforms. And earlier, when you consider when 18% was being imposed on all this online gaming, it was on the basis of the commission. Let's say for example, they would be out of 100 rupees that they would be drawing a commission of about, let's say 5% out of it. The tax was imposed on the commission. But now for every transaction, let's say for example a person is coming up with an online gaming, so he has to pay 100 rupees. So for this 100 rupees he has to pay GST for 28 rupees. It's not just the commission, but the minute he pays for that particular game, it will be imposed on that. Earlier it was for the commission, but now the minute he pays an amount, let's say he is paying 100 rupees, so this 100 rupees will be taxed at about 28% if he is making 4 transactions. So this entire 4 transactions or multiple bets will be imposed on this person. So 28% GST tax rate will be imposed on online gaming. It was 18% earlier, now it will be 28%. Earlier it was for the commission, but now it is for the entire tax liability. So the calculation involves taxing the deposit amount every time a bet is placed, and they estimate that this could result in alarming increase in the tax liability for the people. So as we discussed earlier, it was for 18%. Now what we have is 28%. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Karnataka approves 1/3 quota for OBC in the local bodies. What are the local bodies? What we have is the panchayats as well as the municipalities. So at the municipal corporation level, what we have is the corporate elections that takes place. At the rural and the panchayat level, you have the councillor elections that takes place. So for the councillor and the corporate level elections, what we will have is 1/3 reservation that will be kept for the OBCs. So the Karnataka cabinet gave its nod to continue 33% reservation for OBCs in local body polls as recommended by Justice Bhaktavatsala Commission. So what is this Justice Bhaktavatsala Commission? It was appointed to see whether OBCs will have to be given reservation, who will have to be given reservation, who will have to be eliminated from this particular reservation. So they have now accepted the committee's recommendation where 1/3 of the reservation will be provided for the OBCs, because in the report they have highlighted that 44.4% of the state's population were OBCs, including the minorities, and they will be provided with the reservation in the present situation. So the cabinet approved 2 other recommendations, including reservation for the offices of the mayor and deputy mayor at BBMP to OBCs, and to bring all local body polls under the purview of the DPAR. However, the government rejected the Commission's recommendation to amend Section 10 of the Karnataka Municipal Corporation Act in order to revise the tenure of the mayor and the deputy mayor to 30 months, similar to the tenure in BBMP. It also rejected the recommendation to reclassify OBCs under category A and B, create 2 more categories for the backward classes including minorities for effective reservation before the next local elections scheduled to be conducted in 27-28. So they have accepted some recommendations, they have rejected some recommendations, but 2 important parameters is, one is to do with Justice Bhaktavatsala Commission, which is to do with your OBC reservation, and second is to do with 33% reservations for the OBCs in the local body polls. So the government has accepted this recommendation on the backdrop of the Justice Bhaktavatsala Commission. Now let's look into the next article. This article says High Court urges remedial action for the stray dog issue. This article is very important from your GS paper 3 environment and ecology. What is the issue here? There are stray dogs that are present. The stray dogs, whenever they are hit or whenever they are provided food, what you will have is the animal right activists who immediately step in. There are 2 kinds of people, one who would want to take care of the animals, then there are people who say let them live as they are, and in case you are coming up to a particular locality feeding these animals, don't do it. So there are these animal right activists who come and feed all these stray dogs at a particular location. They don't take permission whatsoever, and at the same time there are people who oppose it, saying that you have not taken permission, you do not have the right to come over to that particular locality and also give out these food to the local dogs. In this particular backdrop, we have the High Court Chief Justice who has issued an order. What is this order? He goes on to say that we have these stray dog problems. These stray dog problems, wherever there is designated places, these animal right activists would be able to come and give them the food. But what if there is no dedicated place? In all those undedicated places, you better avoid, says the High Court. Basically, there are these undedicated places. For example, if you are passing through the lane of the Cubbon Park, this is an undedicated place. This is not meant for feeding these dogs, and as a result, when in these undedicated places, if you are feeding the animals, what would happen? These animals, some of them become aggressive as well. There are children who are passing by this particular lane. There are many old people and senior citizens who are passing by this particular lane. If you are feeding in undedicated places, so the point is undedicated place. This is not a place to be meant for feeding of the dogs. You can go ahead and feed the dogs in a dedicated place, but in a place that is not prescribed for it. If you are giving these food items and if you are feeding them, this will cause annoyance to the workers, and as a result, in some exceptional cases, this can also be hazardous to the children who are passing by this particular lane. So avoid feeding in undedicated places. And it has also asked the government of Karnataka, what are the steps that you have taken to prevent these stray dog issues? Why? Because when you look at in Kerala, what is happening, there are a number of children who have been bitten by these dogs. There are children who have been suffering from rabies as well. There are children who have also passed away in some cases. So there are steps that have been taken in the state of Kerala and in couple of states. So it is directing and asking the state of Karnataka, what are the steps that you have been taking in order to prevent this excessive dog population regulation? Are you practicing the practices that are defined under the Prevention of the Cruelty Act to the animals? And at the same time, are there sterilization programs that have been taking place? So what are the measures that you have been taking? Please give it to us, show it to us, and ultimately convince us that you are taking some action plan. So in all these areas, the major problem is with respect to the stray dogs. So addressing the issue of stray dogs will require the cooperation from the government. So it has asked the advocate representing the state, the government, to give these suggestions to the court and ultimately say that these stray dog issues will be convinced. So the point here is that if there is an undedicated place, so only if there is a dedicated place for feeding of the dogs, you may well go ahead and do it. But in areas like Kabban Park, where it is undedicated, where children would be moving, if you're going and feeding the dogs, they may become aggressive, and this could have potential hazardous consequences for the children. So in undedicated places, please avoid it, is this order. So we have to wait what the recommendations of the government will be and what are the measures that have been taken by the government, and we will take up this article in an elaborate way. Now let's look into the next article. This article says purple rights launched for the passengers with disability. There is issues with for the people suffering from disability. They will not be able to move from one place to another. There is a lot of issues when it comes to them moving from one place to another. So in what could help them, we have the Nammayatri application, which will now enable users to update their profiles as persons with disability. This is what is called as purple rights. So in this application, let's say a person is suffering from some disabled issue. He would not be able to move. He has issues with respect to his leg, or there is a person who has a visual problem, or he is a person with hearing problem. In all these cases, there will be something called as a purple badge. This purple badge will be present at the bottom of the application. If the person attaches this purple badge to that particular person's name, then you will have the people who, it can be the auto drivers, it can be the cab driver, whosoever it is, they will come and assist this particular person. So in case they require some assistance, this will be provided by the auto drivers as well as by the cab drivers. So they will provide additional assistance, and this will help them in reaching their destinations. So links to these videos will pop up every time a person with disability chooses a ride. The application will modify the driver can do for each person, block the call button so drivers can text someone with the hearing impairment, prompt them to call if their passengers have visual impairment. So all these measures will be taken. But in case there is a driver who is assisting them, will they be provided with any monetary incentive? As of now, no. So if there is a person suffering from disability, if he uses this purple badge, they will be able to move from one location to another location. These are some of the topics that we have picked up from the Deccan Herald, which are very important from your KPSC examination point of view. If you're liking these initiatives, and if you're liking these additional initiatives that we have taken, we are also coming up with these short videos as well, with this just within 1 minute. These are the awareness videos that we are also creating. Do watch them. If you're liking these initiatives, please do like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.